This is FNGR, and I wanted to talk about the importance of forming an emotional connection with your audience. Now, obviously, there's a wash of reviewers these days doing this with humor. What I used to see in works from Digibro and Tommy Oliver weren't simple analysis, but hearing how certain aspects of the show touch them on a personal level. This comes not just with analysis, but an emotional connection to the scenes.
That her friends are avoiding her party, so we become suspicious of them even before she does. It's because of this that we totally understand Pinky's feelings and how she will eventually go off the deep end. Even though we empathize with what we see as desperation on the part of Pinky's friends, we empathize even more with Pinky because we hate to be lied to and abandoned by our friends as well.
Of the season thus far outside of Silver Spoon and Flight to the Finish, I'm loving how between her repressed love for musicals, her pensive curiosity for a day at the spa, and her budding reading addiction, Rainbow is slowly being revealed to have this repressed, feminine, nerdy side that is so contrast to her self-projected image. I find it to be an interesting addition to her character that makes her a bit more three-dimensional and believable. Unlike poor Spike, who continues to get picked on by the narrative. Seriously, can we please cut this kid some slack and treat him with some dignity for once?
Touch them on a personal level. This comes not just with analysis, but an emotional connection to the scenes. I'm going to show you two videos that perfectly show how I feel aesthetically speaking this expression is done properly and improperly.
Cold, ambient colors shower all of the scenes, playing perfectly off the echoing melancholy of the waltz. Lens flare, fog, dust particles, and other special effects litter all of their appropriate scenes, never feeling intrusive or out of place. The story is told very simply through the perspective of Princess Celestia, singing a ballad of regret and loss, retelling the story of her sister's banishment by her own hands. While the song lyrics may speak of more nebulous concepts, when accompanied by the animation, we're painted a very clear picture on what has taken place during the song. Those paintings are clear as day, brought to life with smooth animation. Nothing ever comes off as clunky or stilted, and facial expressions properly convey the emotions trying to be told. Everything is paced so beautifully, and the visuals are perfectly in sync with the low and climactic points of the song. And through, everything remains consistent during the...
You aren't just hearing simply well-expressed points, but hearing how this topic has touched the narrator on a deep, personal level, while carrying a voice of authority on the topic. I mean, this is very much in a positive light, as well as having a youthful declaration of whimsy and fantasy. The narrator is taking your hand and pulling you to go here, to see this, to taste this, to feel this, to hear this, and it enhances the experience.
My favorites. Pinky Pride, The Best Night Ever, and Applebuck Season come to mind. My expectations going into Canterlot Boutique were high to say the least. We get treated to more unfunny dialogue from Pinky, and we're introduced to Rarity's new boutique manager, Sassy Saddles. Sassy is Rarity's foil. Her personality is that of somebody from corporate headquarters. Interesting and consistent writing, which is partly what made this show successful in the first place. The audience should already know by now that Twilight is a princess and that Equestria contains princesses. My Little Pony not only features a continuing story arc along its run, but it also tries to be friendly to newcomers by being episodic in nature. I could see why the show producers would want to provide this important information for newcomers turning into the episode for the first time.
This alternatively is very cold. As much as Lullaby for a Princess, Cohesion through song and visual is a magical ride through a magical land, Canterlot Boutique, it fails to convey a human element. I can hear the narrator clearly expressing his approval and disapproval, but I can't feel it. Let me give you a wonderful example into a piece I've never seen.
Kamina is the coolest guy. Period. He's just the coolest. Simone may be the true hero of Gurren Lagann, but Kamina is the one who made him the man he is. He's without a doubt the biggest reason Gurren Lagann pulled me and most other fans into the show. He stands for everything manly and radical in this life or any other, and the way he lives his life is the way we wish we lived ours. Kamina, with his iconic shades and symbol, have come to represent manliness and badassery that reaches far beyond anime circles into the uncharted waters of normiedom that you or I could never understand. And hell, he's my personal favorite character of all time. But in episode 8 of Gurren Lagann, something happens. Kamina dies, and the show now has to go on for its remaining 3 quarters without its strongest character. How could a show that does that possibly recover? Well, to tell you the truth, Kamina isn't the character that makes the show great. It's not Simone either, for that matter. Do you want to know who is? Alright, I'll tell you. We need to build up some suspense first. Let's take a moment and talk about Viral. Viral is the first sympathetic beastman we meet, his introduction being in episode 3 when out hunting for food. This setup already cast him in a different light than the beastmen we've met up till now, weird animal things we can't really relate to. However, as the series progresses and Viral continues to lose to the Digurrendon, Viral starts to think. He's been raised to be a member of the Human Eradication Army, whose sole job it is to kill every human that makes it to the surface. He's also been taught that this act is justified by the fact that humans are weak, inferior creatures to beastmen, and whose lives are beneath notice. But when the Digurrendon appears and starts pushing the beastmen back, Viral starts to wonder if humans really are inferior. You see, at the beginning of the show, the reason why humans live underground with no concept of a surface world as well as the origin of beastmen are completely unexplained mysteries. And while the Digurrendon is focused on simply surviving and conquering the obstacles in front of them, Viral is the one asking, why? This culminates with him betraying his superiors out of respect for the humans he's fighting. He then confronts his own creator and leader of the Beastmen, Lord Genome, to demand an explanation. His search for the truth was the most compelling aspect of the first half of the show, and carries the mysteries into the second half, where we finally start to get our answers.
I've never seen Tengen, Toppa, Gurren Lagann, but I do feel drawn in. This is a ride I want to be involved in. In fact, every minute I'm writing this script, it's pissing me off that I'm not watching Gurren Lagann instead. So in short, you don't have to be a non-stop laugh track. You don't have to fall down, and you don't have to drop your pants and give in to wacky hijinks, as there are plenty of ways to entertain, to appeal to your audience. And it involves reminding your audience you're a fan as much as well as an authority on the piece. Who were your favorite teachers? The ones who were smart or the ones who touched you on a personal level? Thank you.